Hi, my name is Matthew Cobo, and today I'll be going over the various graphic design projects that I worked on over my most recent semester at the University of Redlands. This class, just real quick, was a beginner course on graphic design and basically an introduction to using the program Illustrator, which is used for a variety of different graphic um, but mostly by many graphic artists in the field, and I guess it's one of the most popular ones. Like how there's Premiere and Sony Vegas for video editors, and for the film industry, there is Illustrator and various other programs like that for graphic design artists to use during their careers or during their work. So my professor, she told us to, of course, get this program to use for the class, and then we had a couple other books teaching us the basics of graphic design, how to lay out elements, and how to basically use the program. We used the book. It was, I think, like 13 chapters or something, and we went over it each week in class. We were in person and we looked over the book, and we basically had an hour, hour and a half, or however much time we needed to go over the lessons that it was in the book. Step by step process showing you that even had screenshots in the book showing you how to do the different lessons that were planned out, and it'd give you like move this here, like it'd be like a hippo or something, and it'd say design the eye, and it'd have various elements for you to use, and it'd tell you what you're doing that week. Like maybe this week you're working on with a pencil, or you're working with patterns, and it would teach you how to do these various elements. And each week you'll see, as I'm going over these different projects, you'll see how things really started off slow, and we didn't really go in we didn't start we started more fundamentals, how we started with looking at how things are designed, and it built up with each step using the previous week and the previous weeks from before that. And you would see how the cumulative project at the end used a lot of the various projects or the various lessons that we learned throughout the semester. So this was our first project here. I actually have the magazine for the right one at least. The left one is a movie poster that I actually have up on my wall right here. But these were just basically just good designs that we thought we found or that we knew. So the guidelines were kind of look for like a magazine or a movie poster, or maybe an advertisement or something. And I knew I wanted to do a movie poster. I love looking at movie posters. I love analyzing movie posters. I love learning as much as I can about movie posters. You can probably see on my back wall over there, I have a lot of movie posters. But this left one is for the film Baby Driver. As you can see there, it's a foreign movie poster, and I think um, a lot of the movie poster process is, or at least the industry is, kind of hampered, or it's not. What I'm trying to say is the good movie posters you can't really find that easily. Like this one right here, I have a website that I go to and I print out movie posters that I like. But this one, I really liked a lot. Of course, later on I learned the different language that I guess you're supposed to use for when you're talking about graphic design. But this one is a golden spiral, I think it's called, and it's basically used. I didn't know this at the time, but it's used. The trail from the car drifting is used to kind of draw in your eye to the center as it's winding around and around to the center. And yeah, I really love this poster. I think it really um, kind of says the message of the film just looking at a picture, and I think that's what movie posters are supposed to be about. And yeah, I love looking at foreign movie posters, whether it's from literally anywhere. I don't know, I just love foreign movie posters. And that was that one on the left, and the one on the right is from Dune. This total film magazine I have right here. Let me see if I can find the page. I don't know if I can find it real quick. Oh, here. This isn't the exact one, but it's just the layout I really enjoyed. And you can see it, of course, there, but I think the way the colors are used, and of course the color palette is beautiful, but I think the way that things are laid out and the paneling, and the grid, that was something we learned about a lot in class. The way that the grid words are laid out and the way pictures are, and especially that's important for a magazine, the way how those things are implemented. But yeah, I really liked the way how this magazine looked, and of course, this was one of my favorite films of last year. So I think that was kind of a good, I guess, foundation to kind of set me off on this course. I was already looking at the Golden Spiral, even though we hadn't even learned it yet. which is what we're learning in the next page. So this page was, or this assignment number 2 was for the rule of thirds, the golden spiral, and then the, excuse me, I think this one was called the triangle, or the triangle rule. I don't exactly remember this one. That one was kind of my least favorite to learn, but we were tasked with looking for advertisements, looking for images again. Nothing really exactly we're supposed to make, but we're supposed to find in the world and use those identifying tools that we started learning the first 2 weeks. So these ones are actually pictures that I've taken myself from game photography I like to do. This is from the game Ghost of Tsushima on the PlayStation systems. I have a lot of pictures that I could have used, but I was working on this project at the time, and I thought might as well kind of implement it into my, I guess, this class. So yeah, these are just 3 images, and I'll show you guys right now what it looks like when the golden rules are all applied to them. Maybe you can guess at home which one is which, but I guess just maybe talking a little bit about the pictures. Of course, I chose them with the intention of using them for this project. I'll scroll down now because we can look at it. The top left, of course, is that triangle one. That one is used to have just like a line, a straight line, and then 2 lines kind of differing out of it. I learned later that I had the idea right for doing this, but I actually did it wrong. I think where that horizon is, and that you can already see the line forming there, and it's supposed to lead to the mountain. So basically, instead of going, I don't know how it's flipped on the camera, but instead of going, I think like this, it's supposed to go like this. So just flip-flop, but I had the general idea right. And then let's go to the the spiral one. I thought that one was really cool to use. Kind of the silhouette of the sun. That one kind of reminded me of like the Karate Kid, and how the sun is kind of used as a silhouette there. And then the rule of thirds, just a simple one on Jin using his, I think it's the flute. I'm not sure what the instrument's called, but him using the flute, and it lines up with his head, his arm kind of right here, the end of the flute, and just kind of the part of the tree. I had to resize the image a lot to make sure that it fit within the rules, but I think it's a pretty cool picture, and I really liked how that one came out. And then next is where we start with the graphic design elements. So let me put my magazine away real quick. And this one was for complementary and analogous colors scheme. So this is, of course, for the color wheel. I think we were learning what different colors meant and how they were mixing with each other. So this was my attempt at that. I had never touched Illustrator before in any capacity before this class. I, of course, used the other Adobe Suite products like Premiere, Photoshop, and various other ones like that. But this was my first time touching Illustrator, so we were kind of just thrown the project. We didn't have any the book that I was talking about earlier that told you how to use the projects, or how to do the projects, and how kind of dipping our toes in the water of Illustrator. We didn't start learning it with this project, so I had to kind of go on my own to learn the different tools. And I was just basically let loose in the sandbox of Illustrator, and I think it was interesting looking at my later work, seeing how much it differs, and how when you're not given, I guess, strict guidelines, how much you can really, I guess, roam free. So this one was just me messing with orange and blue. Of course, that's usual complementary color where they're both on the opposite sides of the color wheel. And I think this one, I really like orange and blue. I think that's something that's usually found in a lot of movie posters, and something that's become kind of, I guess, worn out or kind of stereotypical of movie posters, but that's a subject for another day. But this one was just me doing random shapes with the draw pen and the draw tool and the line segment tool. I just did random shapes. I copied it on the different shapes, and I tried to use different hues of blue. That way it wasn't exactly kind of annoying or kind of repetitive. So that was for complementary. And then for analogous here, this was kind of cool, like, kind of coming up with the idea. I did that one shape, and then I was thinking how would it look stacked, I guess, and I just copied and pasted it a bunch of times, and inverted it and copied and pasted and then inverted, and that was what I initially had. And then of course I did the colors, but I think I'll try and bring this up when I did it, but I tried to look a lot of the inspiration that the professor provided us for the projects. So she would give like a PowerPoint slide of what other classes have done and what other students had done with these assignments. So I looked at that and I kind of got inspiration. Yeah, I'll try and bring it up as I go through. But this was one I think where I did that where the rings, one of the ring was highlighted with it. So of course those were the ring highlighted were from other colorways. There, so that was for complementary analogous. That was project number 3, and of course we're just starting to get into the Illustrator stuff. And then these ones. So the class was initially online. We did our first few weeks at Redlands online because we were just coming back from I think um, one of the new variants of COVID or whatever that was, and we basically were online for those first few weeks, and we were doing everything before online, and then we started doing things in class where we started going in, and one of the things that we were going to be doing in the class was actually printing the assignments that we did and posting them on the wall, and people would be coming around looking, and that's where we'd kind of do our feedback. Oh, that just dropped. And we'd do our feedback that way, but we ended up shifting later towards the end of the semester. I think of 3 or 4 projects after this. You'll see some of them I have printed still, but we basically shifted to online, doing online and submitting online, but I don't have a problem with that. I like doing stuff online better. So here this was a warm color palette using the reds, the orange, the yellows, the lighter greens. That's called the warmer side of the, I don't know which side it's on the wheel, but it's called the warmer side. And I thought a lava lamp would be cool to do. I think this was another one we got inspiration from. Kind of a cool, I like this design. It's very simple. I initially just had the bubbles or just the, what is that, like the 6 main bubbles there. And then I just had the idea to just add little bubbles kind of coming up to add some movement to the piece. And then next up we have this interesting piece. I think this might be one of my, let's just say lesser of a strong, or less of an, not less than an attempt, because I definitely did try with this, but one of my weakest pieces, let's say. I think it's not, I don't know, I think one of the important things is to realize how you've messed up and how you've kind of analyzed your work. I think here I think the snow globe was a good idea. Let's just start with that. I wanted to do simple things because I wasn't exactly experienced with Illustrator. So I did move on to using a Charlie Brown Christmas theme here with, of course, that tree with a little ornament. I don't think anyone in my class recognized what that was, but I hope before I said it you recognize what it was. But yeah, the trees and then the spiky trees and the regular trees, I think the colors are kind of, the color followed the project right, the project guidelines, but I think it was, I don't know. I think there's too many sharp edges compared to, if I can go back, compared to the circles here of the lava lamp. I don't think it really works out and it's not less successful, but I think it's a good idea for doing warm and cool with lava lamp and snow globe. I think that's an easy one, but at least I got half of this project in my mind right and I expressed it right. Next up is the harmony board. Trying to remember what this project was. I think it's just the way color harmonies work and how they mix with each other. I had a lot of fun working on this project. I think where this is successful with these things that I've been doing is how simplified they are, and I think this is a really simplified design. This could even be used as a logo for a company, which might come into play later towards the later projects that I did. But yeah, this was a cool pattern that I just did with pasting the triangles upside down and then leading them slowly down. I don't remember, because I think each one of those little things is a different triangle, so I had to basically pattern it, and then those are all little triangles. If I had Illustrator, I can click on each one and change the color, but that was a pattern I used to kind of show, I guess, the sand falling at the top, and then the bottom is the sand falling down. And that green is supposed to be the sand, of course, collecting, and the white is the little sand driblets that are coming down. I think this is a really simple and effective piece, but I don't think it's definitely one of my stronger pieces, which we'll come to see later. Just talking about that now, I see a little weird thing on the design. But this was a really interesting project to work on. This was the Typography Project, where we had to choose a font. It could be any font. It could be an imaginary one like the one here, or a real font. Comic Sans, I think Trojan's a font, but those are the only two fonts, funny enough, I can come to mind. But we had to research the font, do a paper on it, talk about its history, talk about the uses of it, talk about what it could be used for. And there's so many fonts out there for movie poster fonts, so many fonts associated with films. And I thought doing a Lord of the Rings font, which is a very distinct font, one that you can recognize at a pretty much a lineup of any other fonts. But this was one that I found really interesting, and I thought that I could use really well for this. And this font is called Tengwar. Tengwar. I haven't heard it pronounced out loud before, but that's kind of how I have it pronounced in my head. But that's the font that I used for this. I researched it. It was made entirely by J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, the genius mastermind behind the Lord of the Rings series. And he has his own whole lore behind it. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head everything that he did with it. But it was, I think, part of the Elvish language and way Elvish was written in that universe. And it had a whole history behind it, a lot of books and mythology behind it, of course, as he usually does in his literature. But I had a ton of fun designing this project. This was luckily one of the ones that we actually did get to print. So I have a full print of it. It's the printer. One of the reasons why we actually stopped using the printer is because it kept on messing up with the prints. So this was, here, I'll show that, I'll cover my face, but beautiful poster. I think this is one of my favorite projects we actually did for the class. But I definitely went inspired for a book cover approach of how there's usually lines and wrinkles on a leather-bound book. And I used that as my inspiration for this. The lines are supposed to be, of course, the wrinkles, and the Tengwar and the Lord of the Rings font there. J.R.R. Tolkien, I think that's Norfolk down there. That was the company who made the font for me to download online, so thank you to them. I guess a quick shout out. But I had this image in my mind when I was coming up with this one. I had the ring, of course. That was something I wanted to use. Lord of the Rings, that's something you have to use with the ring. And that was just something that I thought I hadn't pictured in my mind. Usually for these I have something pictured in my mind that I want to work towards and I want to try and implement on the screen. But yeah, that was something that I wanted to have the ring. I wanted to have of course, the font that is famous for inside the ring. I toyed with having other ideas and other images on the poster. I was thinking about doing Mount Doom just off to the side and then contrasted with the Shire on the other side. But that was too chaotic, and I think this was a really simple approach to do. Oh, I guess one other element I forgot to include was the all around the book cover. Of course, that is Tengwar, and that's something that I guess you could, or that's usually seen with book covers where there's like a binding around it, around like a rectangle around it. And I thought that was something cool to play with using. I think that's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the alphabet just repeated over and over and over again on there. And I think that's same for the ring inside. I think the hardest part of doing this project was, and a lot of them you'll see, is image tracing with Illustrator. It was something that we were told we could do, but it's not really. If you're going to be going into this field, you're not exactly going to be wanting to do image tracing all the time. You're going to be wanting to use the tools. You're going to be wanting to be creative. Of course, image tracing is when you use like an image online and you just import it into Illustrator and it turns into a vector that you can stretch out and use in however you want. So I did use a ring. I think this was a few of the projects you can see I did use image tracing. I think that artifacting there that you might be able to see is from image tracing. I couldn't figure out how to do this. It looks simple, but it's also the shading for the inside of the ring. But yeah, I improved better over the course of the semester using image tracing and figuring out exactly when to use it and how to utilize it, which I guess I'll touch on a little bit later. But that wraps up this first slide. I'm trying to figure out if I want to pause. I guess I'll pause now because I just said it out loud. Okay, sorry, I had to stop the recording to make sure everything was recording right. The screen, my camera, and my phone, of course, recording the audio. But moving on, we went back to sourcing images online for this next project, and this was a narrative text what was this called? Narrative image, this narrative image flat out with using text to kind of demonstrate an element in the piece or the image that we sourced. So I don't know where I got this idea, but I wanted to use a roundabout. Roundabouts, I guess, are interesting in many ways. How there's just the way people approach them. I guess there's one right outside of Redlands in the university that doesn't get used much, but that's kind of going off topic. But just going, I guess, summarizing why I wanted to use the roundabout. I thought it would be a cool idea to use a phrase with something, and I thought this phrase, what goes around comes around, was an interesting phrase to use for it. Just, I guess, a valuable life lesson you can come away with. And I think I tried to use what color is this? This is analogous I tried to use analogous and complementary colors here, not making sure that things weren't one color and one dimension, and I tried to introduce some variety with the way the text warps. And what else can I talk about this here? I had some difficulty wrapping the text around where I wanted it to go. The big strips, like the yellow one and I think the blue one, were easy to get, but some of the ones like the I think that's the brown ones were hard to do because it just wouldn't agree with how I wanted it to bend. And I tried. There's some I guess complex thought that went into this, how the words would come out and how they'd shift into each other. I'll give you some time to look if you really want to look at it more, but that was for that. That was actually vertical. I did a vertical and a horizontal one. I ended up going with the vertical one, but I like how both came out. They both have their own benefits to them, and I think they're extremely different images if you really look at. If I shift back in between the two, I don't want to go too fast, but I basically just turned the image sideways, and I had to change the way, I had to change the way some of the text was going, like goes around and what goes around. Just the way that the text, as you can see, is differs, and the way how you can read it, I had to shift it around a little bit. But that was a cool project. I definitely spent a little while working on that one. But next up, we're on type texture. This is a cool one to look at, and this one was making an image out of text and having that text be meaningful in some way. So there was one where you could do a flock of birds, but it would be made up by the word bird. So the bird would be made up by birds. Kind of funny thing there. But this is a really interesting piece for me to work on, and I think it took a lot of time. This was what I wanted to do with the roundabout project. I think I got the two ideas for the project mixed up, but this is really bright. And this one basically says, if I can zoom in on it, not everything you learn comes from school. And I think that's a valuable lesson to understand, how you can learn a lot from school, but once you're out of school, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with those lessons you learned in school if you've spent your entire time in school and not in the actual outside world? And I think that was an element that I really wanted to use here. There is the eraser and the pencil. Of course, I don't know if I can zoom in on those specific elements, but you can kind of see off to the side, everything is made up of not everything you learn comes from school. Even my name up there, even the A, I'll zoom in a little bit more, is made up by not everything you learn comes from school. And the pencil, and actually the Be Creative, which is kind of going on more of that theme, is made up of not everything you learn comes from school. A lot of time went into this piece. If you had the file, you could probably zoom in and see some more stuff, but yeah, that was for that. I had a lot of time I had spent a lot of time. A lot of these projects took a lot of time to work on, especially the lighter ones, but a lot of time went into making sure things were lined up. I think I tried to do the best I could with making a piece of paper, a ream of paper, but it just didn't work out, so I image traced it, and then I used the lines that were traced to put my text upon. The same was for the eraser, and the same was for the pencil. But yeah, I had a blast working on this project. This was a really cool project to work on, and I think I executed it well. And I think if you just squint your eyes and you kind of lean back, it does look like a piece of paper and a pencil and an eraser. But it's definitely I don't know what type of thing I was trying to do there, but that's for that. And the next step is the book cover. We were supposed to just use a like Goldilocks and the Three Bears or the Three Blind Mice or just different Little Red Riding Hood, different folk tales, I think that's what it's called, and just make a poster off of that. I'm trying to remember exactly what else we were supposed to do in this project, but I think that was it. I chose Jack and the Beanstalk. I had a few ideas just for like the Three Blind Mice or other stuff, but I think this was the one that I settled upon because I had the most solidified idea in my mind. This was one of my... I am satisfied with how this project came out, but I think people, when we were doing critique in class, people didn't really like how, especially the professor, I remember she said that she wished that there was no blue showing the sky. She just wished it was the full stock taking up the entire cover, and I understand that. But I think I maybe could have had a little bit of blue peeking out. Maybe I had a little bit too much, but I wanted to show that this was a beanstalk in the sky. Maybe I could have included some clouds or more. But this was before I had learned about the pattern tool. I spent a lot of time layering the elements and making sure the beanstalk and the jack were in front of everything else of the beanstalk. And I tried to do leading lines here. That was something that we talked about a lot in class, of leading lines to lead your eye up through the image. And then you could probably see the last few projects have been about text. So this was another text project, but this one I hand drew the text. I used some reference images to figure out how I wanted to do the swirls. But yeah, I really like how this project came out. I think another critique I got was the text might have been a little too hard to read, which I found an interesting problem to work with throughout the projects, because I find that one-dimensional things can get boring after a little while. So I probably won't comment on this again, but I tried to introduce some 3D elements. Let me zoom in a little bit. You can see I tried to add some shadowing or some 3D elements to the letters just to make it stand out a little bit. But that was for that. I think that's all I had to say for that project. Next up is the Juneteenth poster. So this was for, of course, the national holiday now of Juneteenth, where it's celebrating the day. We did a research paper on this one too, but I don't really remember most of the stuff that we do in class. But this was for just celebrating. I think this was the final day that slaves. I remember, of course, this one was in Texas. I think June 19th was, I don't remember the exact year, but this was when the final slaves were eradicated, or the final slaves were freed, not eradicated. The final slaves were freed in the South, and that wasn't exactly, of course, the only time they were freed. This was an ongoing problem, but that's for another day again. But I think this is a really cool image to look at. I tried to make something unique. I feel like a lot of the projects that, I don't want to really diss the class, but a lot of the projects kind of blended in. I tried to make something that was unique. We focused a lot on color in the class, and this was one of the few times I really wanted to work on shading and the way black and white and grays and the different brightnesses and intensities are mixed with each other to create different colors that aren't exactly red, blue, green, purple, yellow. Wow, that was a really quick listing of colors, but yeah, I did The Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, and this was something that I had in my mind. Even in class, I couldn't remember what the name of the type of image this is. The way that it's, of course, with the black and white bars. I don't remember what it's called, but that was something that just randomly popped in my head. I hadn't even seen it. That inspired me to make this, but it was just something that I thought really matched with the way the way of the image, and something that I thought I could really use to my benefit here. Something I could really use to my benefit here, and I think the theming was right. I think everything just really came together in this piece. Of course, the black and white bars are meant to represent the cage of the bird and how the bird singing out the musical Notes, that was something I actually added later on. I spent so much time working on the white and the black and the invertedness of the bird. You can see it's kind of messed up a little bit on the neck, but I think the way the bird came out is perfect, and the way how there's the empty space is used with just the musical notes popping out. Um, Musical notes actually came later, and the way that they're structured with like a kind of like an arc of the spiral. God, this really hurts looking at my eyes. I remember working on this project. It hurts so much my eyes just zooming in and looking at like each individual line. It was such a pain in my eyes, but I think the way that it came out was really it was worth all the pain. I even feel it now looking at it. I'm gonna try not to look at the screen that much, but yeah, I think the way this came out was really cool. The way I used the musical notes was great. One thing I think I did get critiqued on was the way the musical notes, the text. I think she said that she just wished it was all in one spot and it wasn't so dispersed. How there's the Juneteenth and the Caged Bird Sings was kind of dispersed, and the way the hierarchy is of the text. But I'm gonna quickly switch off because this is hurting my eyes. But that was for the type texture. No wait, that was for the Juneteenth poster. And now we're moving in. The Juneteenth was project number 10. Believe it or not, we've gone through 10 projects already. But this one is the music festival poster. Such a cool idea of a project leading up after the Juneteenth one. This one is where we started using mood boards and competition boards, and it's something that I'll be showing just to show my creative ideas and how I develop them into an actual idea and an actual product. But this was for the music festival project. I have never gone to a music festival before. I have gone to one concert in my life, but something that was going around at the time what we were making this project was there was a Joker music fest or music. You can actually see the poster right there. I didn't realize it. The Joker live in concert, which was going on. I think it was in April, and it was something that my friends and I were talking about going to, but we just never really panned out. But I had heard about these things before, how it's just the film played with the orchestra behind it, and instead of it's just another way. I think and there was a Star Wars one that had happened before it, but that was I think where I first heard of it. But it's a really fascinating idea, and I think it was something that I thought I could expand upon, and I could kind of elevate to the next level. Something that I haven't seen really done before, and that's why I sprang upon the idea to work on it, which was just a music festival for film composers and film aficionados and film fans, where they could see their favorite films and their favorite composers and their favorite orchestras. I don't know if film fans have favorite orchestras, but they could see their favorite composers perform the music for the movie live, and they could see. This was something that happened, I think, recently at Coachella, where Danny Elfman performed some of his compositions, like the Spider-Man themes and different stuff like that. But it was such a good idea in my head, and I think I used it well, which we'll see later. But this is just all for the mood board. The mood board is, of course, if you don't know, it's where you paste down a bunch of ideas that you have and you try and incorporate them into your actual design. I'll just go over a few of these because I did end up using most of them except a few of them. The top left one is from um, Kanye West's Jesus is King IMAX experience thing, video, film, whatever you want to call it. It was, I think, I'm a Kanye West fan, but I think the way, or I'm a Ye fan, but I think the way that this image is really, um, it's very, I don't even know what words to say for it. It has a lot of leading lines in it. It has a lot of definition to it, a lot of shadows, and a lot of interesting contrast uses of the blue and the kind of yellowish, orangish tones. I really liked that arc design at the top. I thought it was something that you could see in the La La Land poster at the bottom, kind of rightish, with that Hollywood Bowl orchestra kind of like lines that are inside of the dome. But that was something I was thinking about using. I didn't end up using it, but I wanted to use a lot of movie, um, not exactly images from films, like not like a giant Star Wars lightsaber, not like a giant ring like I used earlier, but I wanted to use like a film reel, a film clapper, and just different elements like that. You know, looking back on it, I'm not really sure why I have the Daft Punk image there. I guess I just enjoyed Daft Punk and it came to mind. But yeah, and then of course I have the color palette on the right that I wanted to utilize. I wanted to use yellow and purple, which when I pitched this to the class, they thought it was a good idea to use. And I loved, like I talked about earlier, I love different fonts for movie posters, so that's what the top rightish is. Just different fonts, and it was something that I didn't really think about using at first, but we'll see on the later movie poster, or the later poster, how it, I don't know, my Shrek's head is cut off there, but the way how I used it later. This was just the competition board. I found a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun using the mood boards more and doing that instead of the competition boards. I kind of found it, I guess, a little pointless to kind of look at. I guess looking at the competition is important, but I felt like I could express my ideas more using the mood board than the competition board. But yeah, this was just, it was also, this was a cool project to do the competition board, I guess, for to learn about different orchestras that have been performed the films live. I didn't know there was a Polar Express in concert that existed. I think that was in Europe over there. But Elf in concert, if you want to see Elf, Lord of the Rings would be insane to see live. Hearing that score and hearing that in person with the film displayed, per, displayed in a giant movie theater or wherever it's being filmed. Shrek, you could see Shrek with an orchestra if you really wanted to, but yeah, those were some of the competitions. So now I think this is my masterpiece, my magnum opus, my piece of resistance of the class. I spent so much time working on this poster. I'm building it up. I don't want to show it yet, but I spent so much time working on it. I spent so much time working on the background. I spent so much time working on the clapper. I spent so much time working on the film reel. And I think it came out in a really cool image. I wish I could have printed it along with that. I put on the floor, but along with the Lord of the Rings poster that I did. But here it is on display. I'll just let it kind of sit and let you examine it if you want. I had so much fun working on this project. The film reel I had drawn it initially when I was working on the mood boards, and I wish I could have shown it, but I pretty much put it one for one how it was drawn on the paper, and it was really difficult doing that with the way the film strip is warped and the way the clapper is, and I had to get it right. I don't think no, I didn't. I didn't even image trace. I think I did image trace for the no wait, hold on. I image traced. That's funny. I can't even tell what I image traced here. I don't think I image traced anything because I remember working on the film reel and working on the clapper because those are just straight objects to just regular shapes to work on. But I think I did work on everything for this. No image tracing was done here. But I could probably spend another however long this video has been. But I could probably spend that entire time just working on this and working on or not working on this, talking about how I did all of this. But I'll just talk about a few things. The clapper. I wanted to get right with the colors and make sure that if you actually closed it, even though you couldn't because it's an image, if you closed it, it would all line up. Of course, I called this the Lights, Camera, Music Festival. I think Hans Zimmer has a tour that was going on called Lights, Camera, Music. I didn't even realize it, but I called it Lights, Camera, Music Festival. And featuring the greatest film composers alive, that is a fact. And date, scene, take. You can scan the barcode if you want. It'll have a little Easter egg for you. I think that still works, but that's one of my favorite scores in a while. You could probably guess what that's from, but there's the film, not the film, the music stand. That was a last minute addition actually. I had that space empty, and I knew I wanted to put like a director chair or something there. But I thought the music stand kind of told you what exactly it was about, and I had some fun working on that on the papers. I'll talk about that maybe later or something. I don't know. I don't I don't want to talk about that now. But gradient was something that we were learning at the time, and it was something that I spent a long time, like I said, working on the background and working on the gradient to make sure that it gradient. Is that even a word? Gradient. It gradiented right. I'll just go with it. It gradiented right, and the yellow and orange and the yellow, orange, and purple I think came out well, with the purple being a little bit more black at the top. But I finally did use the different fonts for the people, and kind of to help people recognize their names a little bit more. John Williams, Star Wars, Hans Zimmer, Dune. I guess I'm kind of summarizing them down a little bit. I might be offending them a little bit if they're watching. I'm sorry, John, Hans, and John again, which is something funny I'll bring up a little bit right now. But um, I remember in class we were talking. We each showed our own projects for all these projects. But this one in specific, the class was saying, "I'm glad that you put the font because they could recognize Star Wars for John Williams, and they're like, if you didn't put the font, I wouldn't have recognized any of the names, and they probably don't recognize any of the names anyway. But at least they know, at least with the three main headliners, which I wanted to do, at least they'll recognize those, and they'll kind of be interested in going to, which was, of course, this is a fake music festival, but something that I think is a valuable lesson that I learned. Something funny that I just talked about that I would bring up is the John, Hans, John. I didn't realize that two Johns were on this list. Are there only two Johns? There's three Johns. There's John X Extra. I don't remember what he did, but I had to write out what each one of these film composers did in case I got asked which one was. But these were just some of my film, I guess some of my favorite film composers that I've seen from films from. But I guess going back to that story that I forgot to bring up, but the John, Hans, John, I'm just realizing now the text is a little off center and it's not lined up. That's kind of annoying me a little bit. But John, Hans, John, I didn't realize that there were two Johns in the middle, and I had John, John, Hans, and I was like, okay, I gotta balance this right, John, Hans, John, and that was just something that I thought was funny to bring up. But yeah, this was an amazing project to work on. I learned, I think, a lot working on this one, and this was an early usage of the grid that we learned about later that I hadn't realized, or that we hadn't exactly learned yet. So I think that was a cool. I kind of anticipated that and or predicted that in the future. But yeah, that's for the music festival poster. I think one of my favorite projects we did that year, or we did last semester. But I'm not even gonna stop now. Like, just keep on moving on. Alt tabbing over here. Next project was the National Park Service project. So this was where we could look at any national park across the world, any country, United States, or any landmass, I guess. United States, South America, South Africa, Europe, Africa, Japan. I don't know why I'm listing so many countries. It's like I'm trying to show how many countries I have, but I have in my mind. But um, I chose Ecuador, Galapagos National Park. Of course, I am half Ecuadorian, along with being half Armenian. So that was. I tried to relate projects back to myself because I think that's one of the best ways you can get engaged with a project, and it's where you can actually be passionate about a project. You don't want to be working on something that you're not really connected with. So I tried to um, breathe some life and bring maybe some expertise and teach the class a little bit about Galapagos National Park. This was my mood board. We did a paper for this one as well, along with the Juneteenth one, talking about how, just talking about, I guess, I'm going to get a sip of water real quick, hold on. I feel like when I breathe, I'm like sucking out all the air out of my throat. Okay. I can't even sing now. I can't even sing. I don't know what I was trying to sing, but one of the things I wrote about in the paper was just how diverse the wildlife in Galapagos really is, and how special those islands are. And I really wanted to capture that and show that as just how unique this landmass is, and how we really can't find any of these other animals anywhere else in the world, just how, due to the way that the island is and how it's been separated from the main landmass of Ecuador. But these were some of the main things I wanted to utilize. A lot of tortoises, iguanas, birds, I think the finch there. And then that beach I just had in my mind the second I saw it. It was something that I wanted to use for the main design. The islands, the turtle shell, and the actual scales of the iguana, that was a texture I really loved. Just looking at it up close and how each individual scale, it's really fascinating how um, creatures were formed on this planet. But turtle shell was a cool idea, I thought. The professor really loved, I'll just say loved the iguana scales and the texture of the tortoise. She thought that was something I could really use and pinpoint on. I'm trying to remember the word for that, but this was a project I want. Before I go to that point, on the right, the color palette kind of aqua colors, sandy colors. That was, of course, we're using the image on the left of the beach, but that was this project was three elements, and I'll show that later. But it's the you can kind of see at the top. It's the poster showing the park, a postcard showing front and back, of course, with the proper mailing address and all that formal stuff, and then a sticker in context and a sticker. And then I'll kind of let you guess what I used for that. But next for the competition board, I just looked up other posters, just a variety of posters and different Ecuador Galapagos National Park posters. Nothing really stood out for me here. I think that the only thing that I did end up getting inspired from this, which I guess was effective in that way, was the postcard on the left. That was I literally used that idea one for one. You'll see when I show you the poster and all that jazz. But I think that's all I have to talk about this. But now moving on to the big three pieces. What is that? Big four pieces. So the poster on the left is or the thing on the left is of course the poster, and that is something that I guess I'll start off right off the bat. I didn't say that I was exactly proud of this project. I think I had the ideas for this project. I think it's all, of course, about the way it's executed. I spent an unbelievable amount of time working on that iguana. I'm gonna zoom in because I need to show it off. I can't even. All right, let me scroll over there. I spent so much time working on the pattern. This is when we learned how to actually use patterns, so I wanted to use it, and I thought this would be a good use for it. So much time. I think I ended up image tracing this, but that's just for the silhouette. Everything else is hand done by me. There's the pattern of the scale, there's the pattern of the green, there's the pattern of the ear, there is the what is that? The scales or the things coming out the back of the head. There is the chin. There's the pattern on the chin. There's the big pattern of the bulbs on the neck. There's the nose. There's the eye. There's the eyelids. There's the iris. There's so much. I wanted to work on this iguana, and I probably spent like 5 or 6 hours on it, and then the rest of the page was empty. And this was, of course, I like to do my projects. I love to do my projects the night before. That's just my luck, but I had to work on the tortoise, the finch, and the other two elements of the project. So that was definitely something that I had to crunch upon with. And that kind of lent itself, I think the way the animals came out was really beautiful. The way that the background came out did not look beautiful. I tried to incorporate some logs there. You can tell my half, kind of went half-seas on it, I don't want to say. But let's just zoom back into the animals. That's the best thing I can brag about. The tortoise really came out cool. I love the texture that I did on that. This is the first time I've looked at a lot of these projects in a long time, so I'm just kind of coming up with these ideas on the spot. But the tortoise was cool. I wanted to do it smiling. I thought usually when you see a picture of a tortoise, they're smiling and they're kind of have like an interesting expression on their mouths. But that was something that I used there. And then the finch, I went crazy working on the feathers. I just used a brush stroke, a pen, thick pen. I just went so many times on to create that actual feeling of feathers, I guess. That's for that. That's for the poster. And then I guess moving up north a little bit to the actual postcard. Again, I did use pretty much this exact idea that I showed earlier of the landmass, and I wanted to do. Usually, when you look at like a magazine or something, you will see animals like if they're shown on a map. Sometimes they'll show them like this with animals being on the different land masses. So I wanted to do that for that. And I think that's all I can talk about there. I put a little grain on top to kind of make it feel like it's an actual poster or an actual postcard. And then the back. This was just kind of a random idea I had. Just throwing the two iguanas, and I did color swap the one on the right to being red, just add some uniqueness to it. And then moving on to the sticker, I really like actually looking back now how the sticker came out of just the iguana, or not the iguana shell, the turtle shell, tortoise shell. It's a really cool design being a tortoise, as I have my own expertise in being one, of course. But the pattern is cool. I had such a difficult time figuring out how I was gonna put in that milky effect. Because can I bring this back? If I look back at this tortoise shell. There's like a milky, interesting effect or texture to it. Oops, that's going one product in advance, but that was something that I really had trouble with when I first opened this project, like in the first few minutes of working on the sticker. But luckily there was a pre-made pattern in Illustrator that I just kind of tossed in there, and I think it came out pretty well. And there's my water bottle with the sticker in context. I did actually print these few things out to show for the class. I printed 2 stickers. They're not stickers, but they're just on paper. But I was going to hand them out to the class, but I don't think anyone wanted them. That was for that. And then the postcard I did print out as well, just so you can see how it looks in person. And one of the things that actually I also printed out the sticker. Oops, I just dropped half of it, but I had to rip it off because I actually did paste it on my water bottle, and I did like a little show and tell in class where I went, oh, look at my water bottle with the thing on it. But there it is, half ripped in half because I had to tear it off my water bottle. I didn't want to be walking around with a random Galapagos National Park sticker on it. Maybe I could. Maybe I should have. Maybe I would have sold some. But one of the things for this project and going forward was learning how to do a system and really show how these things are connected to each other. And I think the way that I tried to do this system here was with, of course, the text, Galapagos National Park, in that font and in that color with the highlighted background that I was kind of talking about earlier. But that system was also a use of really the animals, and I think I could have, I'm trying to think of a way I could have even done the turtle shell with using the system of the animals, but I think there's definitely a lot of harsh, rough edges on this product, but I really like how this one came out as well, even though I had to spend a lot of time late at night, maybe even a few hours into the wee bits of the morning. But yeah, this one came out really cool, and yeah, that's all I gotta say about this one. But finally, moving on already to the last project. So this was for the logo project for the brand, the big brand project. Let me get my papers ready for this next show and tell part. This mood board isn't ready to be talked about yet, but you can just look at it and kind of wonder with anticipation of what I'm going to talk about. But this project was definitely a doozy to do. It was, I'm trying to remember what order, because it all kind of blends together because it's really just one big project that like lasted a month. This was these are 3 projects in itself: brand development, logo design, and brand identity system. So these were 3 different steps into the ultimate end product of making your own company and having its own logo and all designs, letterhead, envelope, and you'll kind of see that I don't want to give away what my idea was, I guess, kind of giving away with the mood board, but I wanted to do a bird company. I have 2 birds now. I had 1 bird when I was doing this initially, Buddy and Lalo, but I'm trying to think of where even to start with talking about this project. I guess I'll start showing these papers. So we had to draw, let's see how many I did here. 40, was it really 46? 40, I thought it was a lot more. 46 different individual designs of how a potential logo would look. So this was, in addition to doing this, we had to also write another paper for this one talking about just how our company would function, what we'd specialize in, what our clientele would be, how we'd get our product across, what would be different about our product, all those good things about a company. I'm just going to show it because I don't have it up here pulled on the computer. We had to draw each individual panel 46 times, like I just said, and a different design each time that I wanted to do. I'm not going to talk about each individual one of these. That would take way too much time. But number 1, this first page, it was a good start, but I didn't have any solid leads. I really like, just quickly going over how this pattern really looked. It was kind of a sequel, I guess, in an interesting term to the iguana pattern that I was talking about earlier. This was another one, page number 2 of our series here. The ones starred were the ones that I was going to work on and the ones that I was solidifying and going to be working on. Of course, the end goal of this project was to come up with one logo that you were going to work on. But yeah, none of these actually ended up being. Well, actually, I won't tell you. I'll let you guess which one of these were the ones that were finalized upon by me. But like I said, the stars were the ones that I was looking at. Some cool designs here. This was definitely a cool design. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Some more ideas here. Again, this. Oh, actually, I guess I didn't talk about what this company would have been. This company would have been for food, for perches, for really anything that you could really want for a bird. This is a cool design right here. But it was supposed to be an all-around bird company specializing in birds for different parakeets, cockatiels, parrots, I guess, I don't know, a bunch of different other birds. But yeah, those are the different designs that I had in mind. Let me get the one that I was actually going to go with ready, prepared for this next few slides. But this was my mood board for this project. I wanted to use a lot of the colors that would be used for a bird. I have a lot of birds on here, of course. I have parakeets, which is the ones that I have in the other room over there. Parrots. I really like the parrot colorway, which is something that I was thinking about going with. One of the things I talked about in class was I loved the Pampers logo. I don't know why it stood out to me so much, but I think a lot of these other logos for bird companies are very lame. I'm just going to flat out say lame. Wagner's, really. Scott's, solid green, really. A lot of these just have birds on it. I think the Pampers logo, the text at least I really loved. Just the playful nature and the kind of fluffy. I said this in class, the fluffiness of the text. Other stuff I have on my mood board. My parakeet down there on the left, the middle left, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. And a lot of good ideas on here. The professor even said a lot of good ideas on here. The feather, I thought was something I could use that I showed I had drawn earlier. Yeah, there was so many good ideas I could have gone with. This was for my competition board, looking at competitive bird brands, and actually I actually recognized one of the bird brands that I use for my bird zone food there. But yeah, it's a lot of ideas. So I did end up going with I am realizing now that actually one of the, well, I guess not really, the design that I went with is, let me show the next slide. This one. So I called the company Bootsy Lala, Buddy, Lalo, Bootsy, Lala. Even though they're both male parakeets, Lala got the more feminine type name. But we were supposed to do a proposed logo design, big scale, in black and in white, or I guess black and then inverse, so however whatever colorway your logo was. But this was the Bootsy Lala at the top was the one that I wanted to go with, and then the invert is of course for the brand needed to be used for anything else. But then there is the scaled logos on the right, just moving, increasing in scale to show how it would look smaller and how it would look bigger. And then different colorways scaled, and I had so many options I could have done. I could have gone with for colorway. The possibilities were really endless. I guess some of my favorites were that orange one on the color options box. Just the gradient that I used there, I really liked how that came across. And let me show you the sketch, how it actually looked in the initial stage. There it is. And then you can look, like you can like flashback like towards how the image looked. But yeah, I image traced, oh actually, the good thing I talked about that, the image tracing, because I didn't image trace online. I image traced off my drawing. So all of these are actual things that I draw. So there's my bird, the parakeet, Buddy. There is another drawing of Buddy. I don't know why. Why are there two? Wait, what did I just show? You can probably hear him. Oh, I flipped out the back one by accident. There's Buddy. So you might be able to hear him chirping right now. And then this is a failed design for Buddy. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go check on them. Hold on. That's funny. The second, the second I start talking about them, they start chirping. But yeah, they're saying, "Oh, you're spending too much time work talking about yourself. Talk more about us." But that was for this logo design. I think before I left, I was going over these. This was a failed design of what the buddy image was supposed to look like. I don't remember what most of these birds were called, but that's a finch down there. I detached the foot because I wasn't exactly sure if they were going to be sitting on the perch. I think I might be going over my microphone right now. There's another bird there, and there's another bird there, cockatiel. Alright, I'm going to quickly wrap this up because I didn't realize how long this has been actually going for and how long I've been talking, but that was for that. And the buddy picture in the middle was what I really wanted to bring out and something that I thought I could. This wasn't something that I initially thought, but I really wanted to emphasize. Um, I guess there's a lot of things I could say about the logo and how I guess you can interpret it. It's not like a deep image or anything, but I guess you can come up with your own meanings to it. But that was the bird image. The buddy image was inspired by that one on the left of how he's kind of looking. I have another image that looks exactly like. I didn't image trace the image, but I did use that for inspiration. But that was for that. And then the next project was making a letterhead, making a letter, front and back, business card, front and back, and then a proposed product or thing that was associated with your product. So it could be like a T-shirt, it could be a sticker, it could be the side of a truck, anything really that was associated with your brand. But I went all out with this project. My final, I think I said this. This was the final project. This was the final big shebang of the semester after the tests that we randomly had. But this was the final big shebang of the project, and this is what I came up with. A lot. So let's talk about the left of the letterhead first. So there is the logo on the top left. There is the, again, I randomly stopped talking with these projects, but I tried to do the system that we talked about. This was something that was really stressed for this project, how there needed to be a solid system that was going into effect for this project. And the logo with the birds and not necessarily the text, but definitely the logo with the buddy's head was what I wanted to use for this system. So there's a logo in the top left. There's the random address that I gave in the writer. I think it's like a random bird shop somewhere in Redlands, but there is the bird head on the right of the letterhead, and there is the stick with all the birds at the bottom. I think that was a really cool thing I just randomly came up with. Where should we move on to next? Tell me where I should move on to next. The business cards? Okay, let's do the business cards. Business cards were something that I got some feedback on. The blue doesn't exactly match the system, and I think that's a good point, but I really wanted to, maybe I could have done black with this inverted color right here, but I really wanted to bring some color out because I thought it was a little boring at points, but that was something that I thought was a cool idea to use just the regular logo and boozlala.com at the bottom. And then this was actually where I got the bird head idea from, using the giant bird head. And it was something that I luckily ended up using. I pasted on the letterhead, and then I pasted on the little envelope sticker there, and then on the product, which we'll talk about later. But man, I'm losing my talk so much as the most I've talked in a while. But there is the business card there. Not really much to say about that business card. It's really simple. Nothing really to now. Again, I guess something really to talk about is the grid that I used here. Forking over, what is that, a fourth of the business card to just the text, and then 3/4 of it to just the big bird head. Really bringing out that system and something identifiable and cute that'll bring out all the bird lovers and the Bootzilala community. But then there is the letter, so there's the outside of the letter, right underneath the business card, so we're kind of going in like a snaking movement. But there is the letter, the big Bootzilala logo, the shipping information there, and then the stamp with the head where I first got the idea to use the head from. And then I had this idea for using the back of the letter as the stick, and then when you opened the letter, like the flap, I can't show that. That's had the address on it. But when you open the flap inside, there is the birds kind of looking at you, and there's Betty looking at you right there. The finch, funny enough, I had to restructure or reorganize where these birds were standing, or I guess sitting, because the finch is too short. I think the finch is actually there, but he's too short. You can't really see him. So I had to reorganize that bird on the left to be closer to Buddy. And I think it looks a little weird because just the way the system has been with the 5 birds and the way that they are. But okay, I guess they got Buddy on there looking at him and looking at you. And then there is finally the product card. So this was something that I had to spend a lot of time at night working on this one. I had to design the card. I had to figure out what I was going to do for the color and the gradient. I think the gradient is a little plain. I wish I could have done something different with that. But again, I pasted the bird head there, and I did use the color to kind of bring out the complementary and analogous colors that we learned early on in the semester. Excuse me. And then I pasted I photoshopped a picture of the different products, the bells, the guitar toy, and the cuddle bone, just to give some context and some variety to how these products would look. I'm really happy with how this card came out. I think the color is a little simple, but I really like the way everything is structured and the grid, the way that it was used here. I spent a lot of time going back and forth, reorganizing how the text would look and how the text would appear to the audience, whether it be capitalized, all caps, or what would be capitalizing that bird. This was something where I also used, I don't think the competition board here helped, but I did look up my own kind of form my own competition board in my head, where I was looking at a different way different products would look on cards, and of course I have my own stuff for my own birds, but I think this is another really solid project I did. Of course, my music festival being my favorite one, as we kind of wrap this up here, as we've gone on a little bit longer than I would have thought we would. But yeah, this was a really interesting class. I learned a lot about the way art is used in this class, and we had three presenters that, I don't know why I went like that. We had 3 presenters that came, and they were from a company that the professor works with, and they came in and they kind of talked about just the career and what they do at their job, and you really learn about just how much these graphic designers really go through, and how really there's so much space in the field to be working, whether it's freelance or it's at an actual company like the one that the professor was working at. But a lot of stuff in the graphic design field, something that I'm not really interested in, but I guess with movie posters, this was the reason why I actually took this class, kind of bringing it all around. The reason why I took this class was I was interested in movie posters the semester before, and maybe I'll make a video on this, but I was interested in making movie posters and learning about how that works, and I guess this graphic design class was something that I thought I could have connected with the two, and I did end up making a movie poster and a book poster, 2 book covers, and I guess that's kind of the same thing, but I guess I have a lot of more appreciation for how movie posters are designed, and just how much time really goes into making them, and how it's really easy to tell the hard ones, or not the hard ones, it's really easy to tell the good ones from the bad ones, and how much effort just goes really into making movie posters. And I guess that's all I really got to say about this. I want to thank the professor for the opportunity to take the class. I really did learn a lot about Illustrator, and I guess myself in a way, for taking the class, if the professor ever sees this. But let me bring this back to this. My favorite poster I did, of course the Tanguar poster, but I think that's really all I got to say about this project. 15 projects in total, with 15 main projects with different elements inside of them, with part 1s and part 2s for some of them. But yeah, a really cool poster, a really cool class to take. I highly suggest, if you're able to take a graphic design class and you are interested in some of the things that I'm showing some of my earlier work, some of the bad work. There we go. I really suggest you take a graphic design class if you're really interested in the art or in the practice of it. Not really even if you're not going to go into the field itself like how I was, but just to learn the appreciation, and just to learn another skill you can have under your belt for Illustrator, and just another Adobe product you can learn and have some expertise of and how the Adobe system works. But that's really all I got to talk about today. This is the first kind of video I've done with this where I'm unscripted and I just talk to the camera about classes that I've taken. But I'm thinking about doing another one of these. You'll probably see that one soon. But yeah, now I gotta go ahead and edit this all together. So I'm gonna go work on that. Thank you for being interested in my work. My contact info is in my About page, I think on YouTube. But you can contact me. My email is kobomatthew@gmail.com. Of course, I have all of my resume and my products that I've worked on throughout my life on this YouTube page. So if you're interested in learning more about me, watch some of the videos, look at some of the stuff I've done, or if you want to really get in contact with me, I do video editing. I'm interested in film. I'm majoring in film in my university. I'm majoring in video and media culture studies and photography. So if any of that interests you and how and what I've done here today, maybe I could design something for you. Even though I've shown I've maybe a little bit ways to go left in my graphic design career. But yeah, as I'm losing my voice here, I want to thank you for watching the video again from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for your support. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.